Hello, welcome to class. Today we are going to learn law of sines. It's another trig awesome thing that we can do. The thing that's cool about law of sines is we don't have to have a right triangle to do it. So law of sines lets us be able to solve for different things on the triangle without it being a right triangle. So far you've learned like sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. But we're not going to be able to do that because now we don't have a hypotenuse in our problem. So we can't use those same kind of ideas. But law of sines lets us use these formulas without having a hypotenuse. So it just opens up what we can use trig for. So in our trig formulas, in our law of sines formulas that we're going to use, we're going to have this right here, sine A over A. And if you remember from probably a few weeks ago, we talked about this. A capital A is an angle. So angles are your capitals. So we have angle B, angle C. But the lowercase, like this is straight across from capital A, so the side is lowercase a. Straight across from capital B is lowercase b. And straight across from capital C is lowercase c. So if you need to refer back to this to remember, definitely do that. But just remember that capitals are angles, lowercase are sides. And then we can also, look at this flipped. As long as we have them in a fraction, it doesn't matter if we put the lowercase on top or the lowercase on the bottom. We just have to stay consistent. So if we're going to work with sine on, like the sine A on the top, we've got to have the sine B on the top and then the sine C on the top. So just be consistent. Sometimes the reason why you can switch these is whatever you're trying to solve for, you want to go on top. So I'm going to write that down. I think it's worthwhile for you to write it down too. So whatever you're solving for, goes on top. And of course that doesn't have to be the case, but I think it's going to make it the easiest for you. So this is just kind of showing you what our problems are going to look like. But let's jump right to this first example, and then we can go through it a little bit better. Okay, so we're looking for angle B here. So since that's what we're finding for, let's write that on top, sine B. And that is straight across from the side 24. Okay, since we put sine B on top, we're going to put sine 75 on top because that is our C. And it's straight across from 26. So 26 is going to go on the bottom. Okay, now when these are set up in proportions, it's going to let us we can cross multiply to solve these. We can just use whatever solving techniques you are already feeling comfortable with. So I would look at this and say, okay, I need to solve for B, for sine B, and so I need to get rid of the 24. So I'm going to multiply 24 to both sides. I don't have a ton of room. I'm going to put it in front right here. So I'm multiplying 24 to the left and it cancels. So we're just left with sine B. And then on the right side, I'm not even going to simplify that. I'm just going to keep it 24 sine 75 over 26. Okay, remember from earlier in the, not this unit obviously, but earlier, like a couple weeks ago, when we were talking about solving triangles, we said that if you're trying to find an angle, like if you're trying to solve for an angle B, you need to use the arcs, which are the inverses. So sine -1, cosine -1, or tangent -1. Okay, so to solve for sine B, that means we need to do sine -1. And whatever this is goes right after it. So it's going to feel a little weird because you're going to have a sine within a sine, but we're going to do arc sine 24 sine 75 over 26. And if you plug that in your calculator, you're gonna get, oh, and don't forget, make sure your calculator is in degree mode because we're working with degrees in our problem. So we get 63.07. So let's call that 63.1 degrees. Okay, and then that's our answer. So over and over, that's what we're going to be doing is we're going to have these fractions. So you might have like sine A equals sine C or something like that. You're not going to use all three of them at the same time, but you're going to group two of them together. On example 2, we're looking for angle A. So that's over here. So that means sine A is across from the side that's 13. And then sine 67 is across from 35. And these steps really are just the same as last time. So you're multiplying by 13, multiplying by 13. So sine A is sine 67. Remember, or notice that on your calculator, if you type in sine, it automatically puts in a parenthesis. So make sure you close that parenthesis. We don't want to do 67 times 13. We want the times 13 to be after the sine function. Okay, so you're going to type that in, and then we're going to find its inverse because that will give us our angle. So you're going to type in sine. I'm going to write it out what you're actually going to type in. So you're going to type in sine 67 times 13 all over 35. Okay, it's going to take me a second to actually do that. So we have arc sine, and I'm going to use my fraction button on the inside just to make sure that it's working in the right order of operations. And I got 19.99, so that's going to be 20 degrees. And just, these are not necessarily drawn to size perfectly or drawn to scale perfectly, but kind of. So it would make sense that this is 20 when 67 is this bigger angle. So just remember, bigger angles make bigger sides, where smaller angles are going to make the smaller sides. So just make sure your answers kind of seem realistic or reasonable. Okay, now we're going to find a side length. So this time we're finding BC, but another name for that we could look up at the triangle at the top if we need to, another name for that is side A. So this is a situation where I would flip it if I was you, because we already know that its angle, we already know that the angle is 46 degrees, but we're looking for A. So A over sine 46 will be the same as 21 over sine, what does 21 go with? We kind of have a missing spot there. But we know that if we have a 46 and a 100, the third one has to add up to 180. Like they have to combine to make 180. So that means that the sign on the bottom would be 34. Right? 46 and 34 is 80. Yeah. Okay, and then we can just go through and solve. So if we're trying to solve for A, kind of like before, we're trying to get that, so we're gonna multiply by sine 46, multiply by sine 46. So A is whatever this multiplies out to be. But I would just be careful. I've seen a lot in the past where students try to like cancel out sine. Just know that sine is like stuck to the number that it's next to. So this together is sine 46. You're never just going to have a lonely sine by itself. So don't try to like simplify anything there. So if we plug that straight in the calculator, again, I'm going to use my fraction button. So 21 sine 46 over sine 34 gives me 27.01. And that rounds down. So let's just call it 27. So that is 27 kilometers. Okay, and we're done. So that's a situation where sometimes you might want to have the sides on top instead of the angles on top. Okay, turn the page. So this time we're finding side AB, which is C, and BC, which is A. So we're actually finding both sides. So the thing that we know, like the complete side and angle that we know together is this one. We know all of B. We know angle B and we know side B. So we're going to use those in each of the problems. Now we want to do these one at a time. We don't want to try to do like a three proportion or anything like that. So we're gonna find A first. So A over sine what? Let's see, if we have 180 minus 61 minus 67, this side is 52. Let me fix that, 52. So A over sine 52 is equal to 21 over sine 67. Okay, and then we'll just multiply by sine 52, multiply sine 52. These ones are kind of nice because you don't have to find the arc or anything like that. We just quickly multiply them. I tend to go up and use my, like, repeat if you go up on your calculator so that I can just rechange the numbers really quick and I don't have to do a lot of other stuff. There. Okay, so if I still the same thing, I get 17.97, which is basically 18 feet. Okay, now I guess technically we don't have to go back and use B again because now we have a complete side of A and its side. So if we wanted to, we could use that, but we just need to use a complete one to find C. So I'm just gonna go back and use the original. So I have C over sine 61 is equal to 21 over sine 67. Okay, multiply by sine 61 to cancel. Sine 61. And I like that because if I go up and use my same calculation in my calculator, a lot of it is still there. So I've got 61. Okay, that gives me with a side of 19.95. So we're just going to call that 20 feet. Okay, and then that's it. So we found side A and side C. And then we are good. Okay, as I was looking at this ahead of time, I noticed that these two problems are the same. And so we're going to just do one of them, obviously. Let's do the top. I don't know why, but let's do this. So solving the triangle means finding anything that's missing, anything that's unknown. And you're going to do that a whole bunch on Thursday. So a couple lessons later. But let's start off with looking for, like, what do we know completely? So we know everything from B. We know the side for B and the angle for B. We don't know the side for C. So let's work to find that first. Okay, so C is matched up with sine 107. And the side that we do know is 15, and that goes with a sine of 25. Okay, so we're going to multiply by sine 107, multiply by sine 107, and that means C is, again, I'm still using my same little calculator fraction from before. Just press the up button and then you can rewrite over it. Okay, and that's 33.9. If you want to put 33.94, you can. It's up to you how far you go. Just, I feel like as long as you get 1 decimal, you're good. Okay, so we've got one side. Now we need to figure out A, but what is the angle that goes with A? So if we start with 180, subtract 107, subtract 25, that means that this missing angle is 48. So let's use, gosh, I wrote that one maybe a little big. Hold on. Let's shrink that down a little. Just a little bit. Okay. I'm going to use the same 15 and 25 side. Here, let's erase some of this stuff. I'm going to use the same 15 and 25 side. So we're looking for A with sine of 48. And it's matched up with 15 from sine 25. Okay, multiply it out. Hopefully you're just seeing that this is kind of the same steps over and over, so it's not too crazy. And then in the calculator, I am multiplying 15 times sine of 48 over sine of 25. And that gives me 26.4. Okay, so these are our unknowns. I guess technically, if it says find any of the unknowns, we also found that angle A was 48 degrees. So these circles were all of our unknowns from the problem. Okay, down to this last one. So we don't have a triangle, but it's the same idea. So you can just make your own triangle and you don't have to worry about the scale at all. So don't worry about, making sure that it looks exactly right. If this is angle A, then we need to find side A. If this is angle B, which is 68 degrees, then we know that the opposite side is 14 because we know an angle B and a side B. Okay, let's just work with that right now and then we can work on the C's here in a second. So what's missing is a side. So I'm going to write A over sine 24 equals 14 over sine 68. Okay, multiply it out. I hope you're getting bored with how the same thing is happening over and over and over, because that means that you're catching on to the pattern really well. So 14 sine of 24 over sine of 68 turns out to be 6.14. So let's just say 6.1 is our A. And that makes sense. Remember to always kind of make sense of your problem. 68 is a bigger angle and it's making a 14. 24 is a smaller angle, so for it to make a 6, that's smaller than 14, so that makes sense. That's pretty reasonable. Okay, let's undo that so it's not too messy. All right, so our other missing angle here is, I'm subtracting 68 and 24 from 180, and I get 88. Okay, this is the biggest angle, so this side over here needs to be bigger than 14 when we solve for it. So if we're looking for C over sine 88, that will equal, we could use either combination, whichever one we want, because we have full things. Let's jump and use the one that we just figured out. So A is 6.1 over sine 24. Okay, and then we'll multiply the sine 88 out and throw it in the calculator. Okay, 6.1 sine of 88 over sine of 24. And that ends up being 14.98, so pretty much 15. So it wasn't a ton bigger, but it's definitely bigger than 14. So That is good. Okay, so this missing side, we found this missing side, and we found this missing angle. Generally, when you're solving triangles, you're going to be given 3 things and you're finding the 3 other things. So we kind of talked about that a little bit when we were solving for right triangles too. Okay, tomorrow is law of cosines. So I hope that all makes sense. And I will put this on Canvas. So if you want to go back and watch the video, if you have any questions, you can hopefully look through that and figure stuff out. So if you feel like you have any questions that doesn't answer, email me. I'm happy to reply to you. You can email me at just denna.sessions@ccsdut.org or on Canvas. Send me an email and I'll try to reply to them. So thanks so much. I hope you're all doing fabulous.